All right then, evildoers, you better look out because Captain Spider is coming. Quote, Captain Spider, what if Volume 1, Issue 7? What if someone else besides Spider-Man had been bitten by the radioactive spider? Utah, the Watcher, recounts how Peter Parker became Spider-Man in preparation for alternative versions of the story. Peter Parker, a high school student, gained spider-like abilities after being bitten by a radioactive spider during a science experiment. The bite grants him an enhanced strength, agility, and ability to cling to walls. After initially using his powers for personal gain, Peter learns that a valuable lesson that with great power comes great responsibility when his Uncle Ben is tragically killed. This mantra becomes a guiding principle for Spider-Man throughout his superhero career. Peter designs a costume and web shooters to swing between buildings, and he begins fighting crime as the masked vigilante Spider-Man. Earth 78127. Flash Thompson is bitten by a spider instead of Peter Parker. Peter notices the spider takes it with him to run some tests. Flash Thompson tells the girls, "There's something exploding inside me, like some kind of power or something." However, both Flash and the two girls are not paying attention to his words as a car speeds his way. The irresponsible driver shows no intention of slowing down. Flash Thompson shoves the car aside, simultaneously pushing his girlfriends out of harm's way. He then lifts the driver, who pleads to be put down. Flash Thompson senses that something has changed. Flash thinks that's a good question and one I can't answer. Maybe that spider bite had something to do with it, and that radioactivity. Perhaps that bookworm Peter Parker can explain it to me sometime. Meanwhile, Flash notices professional wrestling matches that offer $100 to anyone who can last 3 minutes with Crusher Hogan. Flash challenges Hogan, who exudes confidence in his ability to defeat Flash. However, to everyone's surprise, Flash picks Crusher Hogan over his head and slams him to the ground. Intoxicated with his newfound power, Flash loses control, grabbing Crusher by the neck and ultimately cracking it. Crusher drops limply to the floor, his neck broken and lifeless. Realizing the severity of the situation, the promoter decides to call the cops. Due to the unfortunate death, Flash, who never intended to kill Crusher, only sought the money and wanted to impress the girls. Unaware of his own strength resulting from the radioactivity spider bite, Flash struggles with the guilt of unintentionally taking a life. The cops attempt to arrest Flash, but his newfound enhanced powers prove too formidable for them to control. Seizing the opportunity, Flash evades capture by leaping out of a window. Within moments, the two police officers collect their wits but are left clueless about Flash's whereabouts. Their attention was focused downward, not upward, as Flash skillfully climbs surfaces like a human spider. Flash realizes that the spider bite has granted him enhanced strength and speed, but he grapples with the dilemma of his altered life. Unable to return to a normal existence due to being wanted for manslaughter and assaulting the police, he contemplates the possibilities of what he can achieve with his newfound powers. Inspired by a newfound purpose, Flash decides to embrace the idea of becoming a costume hero. Remember, he does, and after quietly dropping through a skylight, sure, why not? As a kid, I often fantasized about being a comic book superhero, and now with my powers and a few modifications in these threads, I can really be one. Thus, upon completion, a flamboyant costume. Not bad if I do say so myself. Got to admit, the cape makes it. All right then, evildoers, you better look out because Captain Spider is coming. Indeed, the name of Captain Spider is soon spoken the fear of members of New York's underworld as he lashes out viciously against an ever-growing number of supervillains. This wipes you out, chameleon, and now that I'm through batting you around, the fuzz can come and scrape up what's left. Whoa, have to pull these punches. Don't want another death on my hands. The chameleon, the so-called terrible tinkerer, and how easily they fall to the superpower fist of Captain Spider, while another youth and envious Peter Parker can only observe his news making heroics from the sidelines. Captain Spider notices a robbery in progress and swiftly takes takes action, defeating the robbers with speed and efficiency. Initially, Captain Spider is so focused on defeating his adversaries that he fails to notice the distant sound of wings thrashing furiously in the late night breeze. Captain Spider interrogates the thieves when suddenly the vulture strikes him on the head with his foot, seizing the bird's statue. The vulture asserts his belief that he deserves the bird artifact and expresses gratitude to Captain Spider for dealing with the thieves. However, Captain Spider insists on settling the matter through a physical confrontation, throwing a punch. The vulture takes to the sky, and Captain Spider utilizes his super strength and endeavors to keep the airborne adversary grounded. Great also is the might of the vulture pinoid wings as their beating lifts two costume forms high above New York streets. Vulture, what are you doing? You get us both killed. Not us, my dear Captain. You forgot the sky is the vulture's domain. You were indeed a fool, Captain, getting involved in something out of your league. Hopefully your death will be an example to others of your like. Then I've got to hang on with all my super strength, and if I'm careful, I should be able to pull this off, but looks like he's ready to swing. Whew, caught his punch. Okay, that gives me an edge. Now I'll just keep clutching with my right while I pack my left into a nice spider strong fist end. But before Captain Spider can swing, the vulture moves. You didn't think a man of my age could hit so hard, you grandstanding idiot. But then I possess a weapon, one of hard cold stone. Ironic, isn't it, Captain, that the very artifact you tried to save will be the instrument of your death? For several moments, Captain Spider, unaware of his plight, then his recuperative powers pumping, his eyes blink open to stare in horror as he realizes his inevitable fate. Not even his spider-spawn strength can save him from the doom now rushing upon him from below. With that, this hero have devised a spider web to catch the tenuous to a building wall, as did another masked avenger on another Earth, who on this world is simply Peter Parker. Oh Lord, he'll be killed, but it's a good thing I was watching Captain Spider tonight. There might be a chance to save him, but all the hope to save the life of a hero he worships quickly dissipates as Peter approaches the crumbling form. He's not moving. Oh God, don't let him be. Have to tear off his mask, make sure that he gets every molecule of air he can, and what? No, it's Flash Thompson, but at this moment, Peter Parker is not concerned with having learned his idol's identity. All that matters is the broken body does not move. So you had to play the big hero, the idol of millions, right to the end, didn't you, Flash? But this time you were really in the big league, where it takes a lot more than being a jock with superhuman powers. In the past, young Peter Parker had been a source of desertion by Flash Thompson, but Peter seems to have forgotten all of that as he gently lays to rest the hero he had so strongly admired, and he stares down at a heroic costume in the shifting lights of dawn. Thus it has ended in this existence, wherein the intervention of one person has deprived a world of a great hero and the resulted only in a grim tragedy. But at least for the present, let us abandon this plane of reality and travel the mentioned bridges to yet another in the limitless numbers of parallel Earths. Flash, not being a science wig that Parker is, never developed web fluid and is therefore unable to break his fall. He dies in an alley watched by Pete Parker. Earth 78227. Betty Brant is present at the demonstration and is bitten by the spider. Once again, Parker discovers the spider and takes it into possession. Betty confides in Parker that she has spider powers, and Parker aids her in becoming a hero and designing a costume and building her web shooters. Betty fights crime but refuses to use her spider strength in a battle. After Peter Parker and Spider-Girl subject finish their photo session, a security guard urgently screams, "Stop thief! Stop him! He just made off with the payroll!" Peter instructs amazing Spider-Girl, "You have to go after him before he gets away." Spider-Girl responds, "I can't, Peter. I used up all my web fluid for the pictures." A stunned security guard watches as the famous Spider-Girl is unable to take action, allowing the thief to escape. The security guard confronts Spider-Girl, saying, "What's with you, sister? All you had to do was use your super strength of yours to hold him. What's the matter, girl? Was one 2-bit hood a little too much for you?" Spider-Girl responds, "I am sorry I couldn't." Peter Parker intervenes, stating, "It's none of our business." Once again, events unfold in a parallel across different worlds, as stated by the narrator, the Watcher. A police officer delivers the devastating news to Peter, saying, "Bad news, son. Your uncle has been shot, murdered." Peter reacts in shock, claiming, "Uncle Ben dead? No, it can't be." Betty Brant expresses her condolences, saying, "Oh, Peter, I'm sorry." Desperate for answer, Peter demands, "Who did it? Who shot him?" The police officer reveals, "It was a burglar. Your uncle surprised him. But don't worry, lad. He is trapped. He is in the old Acme warehouse at the waterfront. We'll get him. Fueled by anger, Betty decides to go to the Acme warehouse as Spider-Girl. The police officer cautions he is in there somewhere, but he will pick us off like flies if we charge him. The thief confidently responds, all I gotta do is hold him off till the moon dies down. Then I ought to be able to slip in the dark. Spider-Girl challenged him, stating that's pretty brave talk for a little man holding a big gun. The thief is startled and frightened by Spider-Girl. In a panic, he tries to run, but he can't outrun the amazing Spider-Girl. Think so, killer? Well, let me inform you then that there's no place you can hide from me. You see that old man you killed was somebody special. Special to a guy whom I happen to love. That's a mistake you shouldn't have made. First, let's get rid of that gun of yours. Now we'll see if you're still so tough. See if you're a big, brave criminal who took the life of an elderly man. It's just as brave against a young girl. No, checks her punch so not as to seriously harm him, even so lowly a human being, but as she easily lifts the unconscious form for a better look. That face, it's now I can see that it's the guy who ran past me the night after Pete and I took those pictures. I could have stopped him, but I didn't. What she does next is expedient and without words, for her thoughts are heavy, as is the feeling of a guilt now weighing down a young woman's soul. It's him on a spider web, and there's the reason, Spider-Girl. Huh? I don't care what the publisher hollers about. Anybody who did what she did and who looks that good is okay in my book. And when a little form drops to the lawn of the Parker home, Spider-Girl, your mask. I'm never putting it on after again, Peter. Spider-Girl is dead. Huh? But why? I don't understand. Tearfully, Betty Brand explains. It's my fault that your uncle was shot. If I had stopped him when I had the chance, he'd never have been here tonight. And you can't hold yourself responsible for Uncle Ben's death, Betty. You couldn't have known, but I do. And it's responsibility I just can't handle. That just plain Betty Brand won't have to. Peter, take me home. Still weeping, Betty feels the warmth in the young man's proximity. She does not look back, not even for a moment, as he does, to that which shows a brilliant red and blue in the moonlight. Again, we have observed sameness and differences in a world which for now we must leave. Earth 78327. John Jameson is bitten by a radioactive spider. As was the case in the previous two stories, Parker attains the spider. John's father, Joan Jameson, learns of his son's new powers and immediately starts to endorse him in his paper and encourages him to become a crime fighter. John agrees and dons a costume and a jetpack. Though this world's J. Jonah Jameson is basically the same as his counterpart on your Earth. His attitude towards superheroes has definitely undergone an understandable mutation. Yep, that's my boy, all right. Sure glad my old buddies in the space program were able to whip up this jetpack, and that bugle paid for it. This way I can still soar through the skies even though I'm not an astronaut anymore. I was afraid that as a superhero I'd miss being able to fly, but now I can do both, and this pack lets me do things that a grounded Spider Jameson could never do. And before long, thanks to his father's public relations campaign, Spider Jameson's heroic images grow. Broadcast to bring you a special bulletin. The Space Council launch into orbit today is out of control. Like Flash Thompson, he does not develop web shooters, and when the runaway space capsule falls to Earth, he relies solely on his jetpack to slow its descent. Unfortunately, the pack is not strong enough to slow the capsule's fall, and he is crushed beneath it. Desperately, J. Jonah Jameson pulls his son from beneath the heavy capsule, his spirit as crushed as John's broken body. Dad, my strength. It saved the astronaut inside the capsule, saved me from dying instantly, but can't hold out much longer. Got to know one thing, Dad. Did I make you proud of me? Proud? Oh my God, John, you've made me prouder than any father who ever lived, but how you must despise me. I, who pushed you, drove you. If not for my hounding, you. Don't blame yourself, Dad. My number was just up. That's all. It is a somber crowd which gathers soon afterwards in New York Central Park as a bronze effigy paid for the Daily Bugle is unveiled in the morning's light. To the world, Spider Jameson was a great hero, and so the multitude deeply commiserate with J. Jonah Jameson, but their loss can never equal that of this man, who once had a loyal son. Jameson's eulogy is heavy with emotion, and when his finished, there is silence for nearly a minute before the gathering finally and reverently disperses. Well, Parker, for For John, it's over, but for me, it's just the beginning. There are other superheroes like my son turning up in New York, and I'm going to use the Bugle to tell the world what a great bunch of people they are. Maybe in making sure that the public accepts them despite their strange abilities and concealing masks. Maybe then I can make up a little for what I did to John. Mr. Jameson, I'm sorry, sir. Forget it, Parker. And look at the statue. I had it built not only in memory of my son, but also to serve as an inspiration to the average Joes just like you. Now, if you'll excuse me, Parker, I've got a newspaper to get to. Peter Parker does not notice Jameson as he walks away, for his attention is trained upon the bronze image of the Spider Jameson. Even as we depart his particular Earth to return where I have shown how apparently trivial incidents can occur the course of history, and I have spoken of fate, the inevitable end towards which certain beings are inescapably drawn. Behold then a fateful scene which occurs soon after each of these series of tragic events, a scene which in all three cases identical and involving Peter Parker. Yes, I'm sure. Glad I saved that dead spider. Something about the spider's bite can apparently give a person superpowers, making him like a human spider. If I could somehow isolate that something, there begins the countless analysis, the calculations, until late one night in the home laboratory of weary Peter Parker, I've managed to extract the last vestige of the spider's venom and use it in preparation of this serum. I have no idea if this will really work, but at the risk of turning into Mr. Hyde or ending up with the world's worst bellyache, here goes. Let's face it, what a loser like Peter Parker got to lose. As he swallows the potion, Peter's inside surges with burning energy. Then, as the weird sensation ceases and Peter again starts to feel normal, Parker, you hit the jackpot. You've given yourself the powers of the spider and didn't even have to get bitten. And so it happens that upon each of these three Earths, gangway people, here I come, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. But now it should be obvious that requires more than just the bite of a radioactive spider, more than just the powers and gimmicks. In truth, it requires a special breed of person possessed of certain qualities which make up the individual name Peter Parker. You see then that it was destiny's plan for Peter Parker to become the amazing Spider-Man, and it's my task to observe this Spider-Man on any of the worlds upon which he exists. Thus must it ever be, for I am the Watcher. Notes, at the end of the three stories, it explains that no matter who was bitten by the spider, Parker uses the spider's remaining venom to develop a serum that grants him spider powers, and he dons the mantle of Spider-Man. At the end of the three stories, the three heroes' careers had come to a sudden end. Flash and John's death, and Betty's decision of giving up being Spider-Girl after the death of Ben Parker. Out of all three spider heroes of each story, Betty is the only one who used web shooters, whereas Flash did not have any, and John only used a jetpack. Betty Brand giving up her identity as Spider-Girl homages Spider-Man no more. Despite all three stories ending with the subjects ending their crime-fighting careers, all three return much later as the members of the multiversal Spider Army. Next issue, What If, Volume 1, Issue 8, What If the World Knew Daredevil Was Blind?